In midlife, like I was saying earlier, weight loss is not a calorie issue. It's 100% a hormone issue. The concept of eating less and training more just simplifies this hormone shift. That is signals to your hormones. It tells your body that you're not safe. And a
Yeah,
body
sure.
that does not feel safe is just going to store fat. You're literally switching your body from fat burning to fat storage.
Okay, well, we are so excited to be doing our first mini podcast series from the Magnolia Collective Wellness and the Naked Nutritionist. The collaboration between our two passions really has brought us together for this shared vision to help define, thrive, and empower women during this midlife period. We here at Magnolia Collective Wellness really believe that we can truly make a difference in helping women to take control and take ownership of this journey through perimenopause and menopause. And particularly as nurses, our training, our specialty, our superpower is taking what's happening with a woman or a patient or a client and taking that unique journey and bringing together all of the resources to support women and helping them to work synergistically within each other. And today we are so grateful to have one of the leading nutritionists here who is just as equally passionate about the role that nutrition and fitness and really focus on perimenopause and menopause has for women all over the world. And this collaboration is really that opportunity to come together and to inspire each other and to partner together and be stronger as a team and realize kind of the power of that. My name is Kelly Yamamoto. And we have here our founder and my fellow nurse with Magnolia Collective Wellness, Teresa Loveland. And we are happy to welcome the Naked Nutritionist. This is Jabeen Pastore. She is a registered nutritionist, functional nutritionist based in Melbourne, but works with clients all over the globe and so passionate and inspiring with the work that you do, Jabeen. Super happy to have you.
Thank you. So happy to be here too.
Awesome. So I got to tell you guys a funny story. It does not have to do with weight gain, though, which is actually what we're here to talk about today. But it has to do with sleep. So we know that perimenopausal women everywhere are realizing on this journey that there are symptoms that they may have been dealing with for years that actually could be connected to what's happening hormonally in their body and not just something that like pops up out of the blue and makes them feel like they're going crazy. So when weight gain, and this sort of change in your body is one of those things. Another one of those things actually is sleep. So I was having a conversation, having brunch with some friends of mine earlier today. And we were talking about the need to have great sleep just to, be able to function in our day to day. And my friend is like, she's like, yeah, I need help with that. I haven't been sleeping well forever. And I was like, you know what, sis? I was like, maybe that's perimenopause. Because you know what? Shoot, we could chalk all kinds of things up to perimenopause. And I was like so proud. I'm like, yes, like this is it. Hormonal change. She looks at me and she was like, Kelly, are you saying that I've been in perimenopause since I've been in my 20s? Because that's how long I've been having sleep problems. And I was like, well, maybe not. But 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 maybe if it's gotten worse in the last like 4 to 5 years or 2 to 5 years, then we'll talk. And so I mean, yes, a ton of different things where I think we're just shining a light on the fact that what we're going through in our bodies and in our psyche and the things that we're dealing with really deserve to be supported. So today, like we mentioned, we're here to talk about the nutrition and the weight changes that happen associated with perimenopause. So I thought maybe we'd start actually with Teresa, just kind of as a baseline. For you, Teresa, what are some of the most misunderstood hormonal changes that contribute to weight gain in perimenopause?
I'm so glad that you asked. So one of the things I think is super misunderstood is the role that estrogen plays in the body. And a lot of women, they don't understand the power behind estrogen and how much work estrogen does. One of the things, not only is it a massive anti-inflammatory hormone, but it also plays a significant role with so many other hormones in our bodies. And I'll just name a couple. So leptin is one. That's our feeling full hormone. And also ghrelin is also another. And Jabeen probably knows a lot about those two hormones. But another one is thyroid, cortisol, and we can talk more in depth about those. But when estrogen starts to go chaotic and drop off a cliff, which is what happens in perimenopause, has a massive impact on these different hormones. So with leptin, for example, when estrogen drops and goes wildly bonkers, the result is you have this decrease in leptin and you can just keep feeling full, even though you might be eating fulfilling meals. And then with ghrelin, that's your hunger hormone, and that can shoot way up when your estrogen drops, amplifies the feeling of hunger. So, Jabeen, if you want to expand on any of that, I can also talk about cortisol and a couple of others as we move forward.
Yeah. I think linking to that is, with cortisol and insulin, they're actually hormones and thyroid too. But in perimenopause, the focus is always on the decline of estrogen and progesterone and testosterone. And the unsung major drivers in a lot of the issues we see is actually the dysregulation of cortisol and insulin, and then the silent victim thyroid. But I think that warrants a deeper dive, which we both will get into a bit later. But in perimenopause, especially when people think, oh, it's inevitable, we're going to lose weight and we're going to gain weight, right? And they try to cut down calories and they try to over exercise. In our midlife, weight loss is not a calorie thing. It's actually a hormone thing. So I'm just jumping into maybe the weight loss and the myths and misconceptions, Kelly, about perimenopause, if that's all right, unless you want to
Please.
expand on that. Because what Teresa just said really leads into why there is such a myth and misconception on weight gain with perimenopause. So did you want to add anything else, Teresa?
Yeah, the other thing is you brought up cortisol, and it has a dramatic impact. And the relationship between estrogen and cortisol, and there's kind of this negative feedback that sort of happens. So with the estrogen and the hormonal chaos that's occurring during perimenopause and the fall off and drop up of estrogen, it really throws off and can amplify cortisol, which is our stress hormone. And that can trigger the liver to release more glucose. And then if we aren't utilizing that glucose because we aren't moving our bodies to, sort of reach this stable point, then that can lead to the insulin resistance. That can lead to fat storage. And then the other thing too is like we normally have fat storage, but for women, we typically have that in our hips and our thighs. But when perimenopause happens, that there's a shift that can occur, and then you can have that presentation of the menobelly is what it's commonly called. And then that leads to further things. And so it's called visceral fat, and that fat is the fat that's around the organs in our abdomen. And that's super inflammatory, which can then increase further cortisol. And then high cortisol can lead to poor sleep, and then poor sleep increases your ghrelin hormone and decreases your leptin hormone. And then you just sort of have this really vicious cycle where you're not motivated anymore because these are people that are working out. We're talking about people that have a very regimen schedule where they work out and they eat healthy, but they're having these big significant changes and they're getting super frustrated. And when you don't have that sort of same response that you had when you're in your 20s and your 30s, and all of a sudden you're waking up and you're like, what the heck is going on? I'm putting on weight and I'm doing the same exact things. That creates also some mood, emotional feelings too. And that can all contribute to sort of this downward spiral.
Sure. So it really sounds like the hormonal changes, the majority of what's associated with hormone changes during perimenopause is estrogen, but that is actually kind of a misconception because there are
100%.
multiple downstream effects
Yeah.
with these hormone fluctuations that have a cascading impact on other hormones that we have in our body and how our body really reacts to all of that is what I think I hear you guys saying. Yeah.
Yeah,
100%.
Nice.
yeah. And I didn't even talk about testosterone. Testosterone has such a horrible like negative connotation with particularly with women. We all have testosterone, men and women alike. We all have testosterone. And with women, we just have it in a different ratio as compared to men. But what testosterone does is it doesn't fall off the cliff the same way that estrogen does. And it doesn't have that same chaos that estrogen and progesterone do. It's a more linear decline, and it tends to peak in our 20s and 30s, and then it starts to slowly go down from there. But the impact that it has on our muscle mass is enormous. And so when you start to lose that testosterone, your muscle mass starts to decrease. And muscle is incredibly metabolically active. It means that it's using and burning glucose. And so the less efficient or the decline in that muscle mass can lead to that slower metabolism, which can then lead to weight gain. So there's multiple factors involved. And I'm sure, Jabeen, you see this and work
Great.
with your clients, about this exact thing.
Yeah, so it sounds like, and I think we'll get to this in a later topic, like, why weight training and muscle building is even more important during perimenopause. And I think you kind of just sort of unlocked a little bit of our future discussions, which is the role of the hormones changing in our body and how we use and how we combat and how we thrive during that period. That's awesome. A great introduction to what we're talking about. Jabin, you kind of mentioned that you wanted to address some of the misunderstandings about hormonal changes. Can you elaborate on that a little bit as it relates to weight gain?
Yeah, I would love to because again, weight gain in menopause and perimenopause, there's just so many myths and misconceptions surrounding it, and it's not necessarily addressed in a fair light. In midlife, like I was saying earlier, weight loss is not a calorie issue. It's 100% a hormone issue. So this is a hormone conversation. When your estrogen declines, as Teresa pointed out, it impacts so many receptors. And with the decline of estrogen, it's not just a hormone regulation or like it's just not about hormone and reproductive hormones declining. It impacts vital roles. Our fat distribution gets impacted for no reason at all. You might be eating and training the same, your belly fat starts turning up. Instead of it being equally distributed, there's a lot of belly fat or fat circulation around the midsection, as Teresa said, the belly. Then there is inflammation for no reason at all. Your LDLs go up, your triglycerides go up, but you haven't changed anything. You're still following the same anti-inflammatory diet. You're still training the same, but why has inflammation gone up? Suddenly we're dealing with fatty liver disease. We're dealing with gut microbiome shifts. We are dealing with cortisol and insulin, which we'll talk more as the session progresses. We're talking about muscle loss. So the concept of eating less and training more just simplifies this hormone shift. It makes me want to scream from the rooftop when I've got new clients that comes to me. They're exhausted, not just mentally and emotionally, they're metabolically fried. They're frustrated. They're so upset for being unheard because their doctor or health practitioner just said, it's just aging. It's menopause. Eat less, move more. That is signals to your hormones. It tells your body that you're not safe. And a body
Sure.
that does not feel safe is just going to store fat. You're literally switching your body from fat burning to fat storage. And this is what a lot of women don't understand. But it's not their fault. Social media tells them to look a particular way. The diet culture tells them to do this. And then they've got unrealistic expectations of what they should be looking and cutting out, not based on their hormones and body today, but based on archaic details, it just frustrates me because it's a lot more than that. And then there is this mindset of low calories. I'll give you an example, right? If we're talking about the calorie mindset, if you were going on a low calorie diet, you would look at 2 dates, okay? 2 dates, I don't know, about 133 calories or thereabouts versus a quarter of avocado and 2 eggs. So about 150 calories, if not a bit more, right? So if you're calorie driven, are you going to look at the 130 calories or the 150 calories? The 30 calories. But what is that calorie doing to our hormone regulation? So the question isn't how many calories is that food? The real question is what is that calorie going to do, number one, to my blood sugar regulation? Because the more glucose spikes you have in the day, the more impossible it is to lose weight. So that date is definitely going to spike the glucose regulation. Again, what is that calorie going to do to not only my blood sugar regulation, to my hormone regulation, to my nervous system? What signals is it going to send? So it's not calories in, calories out. What is that calorie doing to our glucose levels? The fats from the avocado and the eggs and the protein from the eggs, that's going to tell your hormones that you're safe. That's going to regulate your blood sugar. And that is what's going to keep the weight off, not necessarily the low calorie. So it's a huge, huge, huge misconception. So I spend so much of my time reframing the client's mindset to see that in midlife, it's not calories in and calories out, but what is that nutrient? What is that calorie doing to our
Sure.
body? Nervous system. It's so critical.
Sure, sure. So I think put another way, I love the way that you say that weight loss in perimenopause is not a calorie issue, right? It's not a calories in, calories out issue. I
Correct.
kind of heard you talk a little bit about what the nutrients are doing with your body. Can you sort of give us a high level synopsis of, okay, it's not just calories. So what are those other elements that you look at when you're looking beyond calories and when you're addressing weight in perimenopausal women?
I love this question and thank you for asking because again, with that calorie in, calorie out, you're missing the whole thing. It's very short-sighted because when you're only focused on weight loss, you will always be disappointed because the weight can fluctuate, but the inflammation can go up. Just yesterday, literally in one of my sessions, I had a client. In a matter of 4 weeks, she went up 4 centimeters and she wasn't feeling great. Right? She goes, oh, but I lost 1 kg. I'm like, okay, so you're lighter on the scales, but how do you feel? She goes, crap, because my jeans don't fit. So this is a classic example of the calorie in, calorie out. If you're eating processed, ultra processed foods or sugars or naked carbs, what do I mean by naked carbs? It's carbs, like whether it's rice, whether it's fruit, whether it's sweet potato, these are great. However, you've got to dress up the carbs, right? So when I'm talking about calories, you've got to dress up the carbs with protein and fats to mitigate that glucose spike. So if you, Teresa and I, we went out for Italian, right? They always bring out the bread first, always. But I would say, ladies, let's not go dip with the bread first. Let's ask for a salad because the salad is the fiber. So we start with the fiber. And I said, let's order a dozen of oysters. And then we've got the protein. And then if we want to have the bread, let's have it, but let's dip it in the olive oil. So what I've essentially done for you and Teresa and myself is we've protected ourselves from having that glucose spike that holds on to fat. So the fiber layered with the protein and fats and then the carbs makes that glucose spike a little bit more stable. So our glucose levels stays a lot more stable throughout the day and it keeps us more satiated. But if we went straight for the bread with no protection, with no dress, I always tell my clients, let's dress up the naked carbs, right? If we just had the plain carbs, all the glucose goes straight into our bloodstream and suddenly our glucose levels is that way. And suddenly a 300 calorie dish becomes 750 calories. So do you know what I mean? It's not about calories, but how are we eating it? How are we dressing it up to prevent that glucose spiking? It's so important, but people don't get it. People go, I'll just go low calorie. Rice is more low calorie than avocado. But which one's going to stabilize your hormones? Which
Yeah.
one's going to stabilize your blood sugar regulation? It's definitely not the rice. It would
Yeah.
be the avocado, even if it's got a lot more calories. So you see, calories in, calories out really, really doesn't work if fat loss and weight loss is our goal.
Yeah, I will say, I think, Jabeen, you have given me a completely different way of addressing the way that I approach my meals, and you've also made me incredibly hungry. because it makes it's so enticing to look at it that way, and instead of just saying like I'm just gonna have, I'm just gonna have this one thing very basic, dressing it up, making it really a comprehensive food or meal, and then structuring the flow of the way
Yeah.
that we're eating
Yeah.
really logically makes a ton of sense. So that's fantastic as well. Teresa, your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I wanted to bring up something that our generation has, and I think generations prior to ours, is the fact that there's been so much focus on being skinny. There's a saying out there that's going around the menopause world is that strong is the new skinny. We've been in my youth, like it was so in our face where thin was the way. And that was like ideal body shape and figure was being thin. And it's what an incredible disservice to women. And so I think one of the things that as we are embarking on this sort of deep dive of perimenopause and how it impacts our health just overall, what we're discovering is that strong is the new skinny.
Yeah.
And that we're trying to remove these old sort of deeply ingrained thoughts in our society and our different cultures and make an enormous change. It's like a 180-degree change. And that takes some time, and it also takes mind shift.
Yeah.
So I think just to add on to what she was saying is just almost like relearning how to go about doing this, but it's possible. And that's the thing, is that it's not impossible. It's very much available to us. It's just learning, like describing the way in which, the steps in which you should eat. So yeah, just to kind of break down a little taboo there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think if you've touched on a really important topic, which is how do we shift the narrative? And I love, Teresa, that you both think so much about how do we make this meaningful and make sense for the woman when we're really getting deep into changing our conceptions that we have about how we think about weight and how we think about strength and how we think about muscle over time.
Mhm.
I'd love to hear from both of you, from the Magnolia perspective and from the Naked Nutritionist perspective. What are some strategies in helping women to shift their mindset that you have seen really take hold with the clients that you work with?
For me, clients come to us and they're feeling extremely discouraged. They've gone to their doctor, they've been told, the less calories, more exercise, or kind of, actually a long list of them, but it's ridiculous. But they're feeling really discouraged and deflated. And so one of the things that we really pride ourselves on at Magnolia is education and knowledge is so powerful. And women are smart. You just give them the education and the knowledge, and it does nothing but great things. It empowers them, it validates them, and they feel encouraged at that time then to go, okay, now I understand what's going on with my body. What do I do to move forward? And that is an incredibly wonderful feeling and something that we are super, super strong believers in. So really it's knowledge is power, and just trying to educate the woman so that they can move forward. And then they can go on and talk with Jabeen and get that expert consultation and the follow through so that they can really make changes. So yeah, that's what we believe at Magnolia.
I agree with everything Teresa is saying, is that reframing. I am really in a position of honor that I can actually work with ladies in perimenopause from all ages, from 35 plus all the way till 75. And my approach with all of them is very different. And the reframing is very different. If I take my clientele at 60 plus, it's exactly what Teresa has said. It's been ingrained. Small and skinny is better. So I've got to reframe and unlearn those toxic beliefs and behavior that small and skinny and light on the weight doesn't increase your self-worth. Do you know what I mean? There are ladies in their 60s still chasing a diet, chasing the number on the scales. And I said, it's not making you healthier. Look at your HSCRP, your inflammation markers. Look at your metabolic markers. Look at your lipid panel. They're all suffering. And there's this misconception if skinny means healthy. This skinny person could be skinny fat. If you've got no muscle, you are fat. You're skinny fat. Look at your visceral fat. Let's get a DEXA scan and let's assess your bone health. Let's assess that visceral fat. Now, just for those of you out there in the audience that haven't really heard about visceral fat and subcutaneous fat, visceral fat is the fat around your organs. That's dangerous. That could spike your cardiovascular disease and other health conditions. You don't want to be skinny on the outside and have high visceral fat, right? The subcutaneous fat, the fat that you can see, which a lot of perimenopausal women get on their hips and belly, is actually a protective thing. It prevents them from getting that visceral fat. Obviously, we're going to address the excess fat and we're going to implement personalized care to lose that fat. But we've got to reframe that mindset. Skinny isn't healthy. Strong is healthy. Hormonally balanced is healthy. Muscle mass is healthy, right? Not just weight loss can be your goals, but it cannot be your sole goal. Health is so much more than the number on the scales. We've got to reframe that mindset for the ladies out there. Your self-worth is not your weight. It really, really isn't.
The other thing too is I'm not the biggest fan of a scale.
Yeah, me either.
It does not tell you an accurate reflection of what is actually going on. So yeah, you can weigh yourself and it just spits out a number, but Jabeen mentioned DEXA scan, and a DEXA scan can tell you not only your bone density, but it also can share muscle mass and your visceral fat. So it gives you a really comprehensive picture of what's actually going on in your body. And when you look at that and you compare it to what your scale says,
100%.
it's not a direct correlation. There's so much emotion that's tied up into that, and it's not necessarily a positive relationship. So I'm not the biggest fan of a scale. Throw your scales out.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So I think some really great pearls from you guys when it comes to this are scales aren't your definer, right? Strong is the new skinny, and weight loss is not necessarily a calorie issue. And also weight loss is potentially not your overall goal, right? We're really talking about how is your body built? How is it composed in a way that you are helping it to thrive over the long term and through this phase of life, particularly. These are really, really great insights, guys. I very much appreciate all of your knowledge coming together. And when you look at how to approach this this particular part of perimenopause and menopause, I want to dive a little bit deeper into some of the specific aspects of weight and weight gain, or how we're looking at how you're, Teresa, and then Jabeen, love to hear your feedback on this as well. What types of lab or diagnostic tests or markers are components of healthy weight, of weight loss or weight gain during this phase of life?
Yeah, this is actually a pretty common question that we get from our one-on-one consultation clients who are preparing to go see their doctor. There's actually quite a list that you can get before you go to a doctor. But just to point out some, one of the things is perimenopause. There's other disease processes that can mimic perimenopause. So it really behooves the provider or the physician to make sure to rule out some of those disease processes. So, for example, getting a thyroid panel would be warranted just to make sure there's nothing going on with the thyroid. Thyroid disease, that process some of those symptoms can very much mimic perimenopausal symptoms. So making sure that the thyroid panel looks good, checking your insulin and your glucose. So your HbA1c would also be warranted. Your cortisol levels, your estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone levels would be a great suggestion. A lipid panel, so checking your cholesterol, total cholesterol, your happy cholesterol or your HDL, and then your LDL, your not so good cholesterol. Vitamin D would also be another one. Vitamin D is actually not a vitamin, it's a hormone. I don't know why it was called vitamin D, but it is. And something that I see frequently with my clients is that vitamin D hormone is one of the first hormones to start to fall off, and when they enter perimenopause. And when you have vitamin D deficiencies, you can be really tired. You might have some brain fog, you might have some joint pain. So making sure that your vitamin D levels are adequate. And then of course, checking a complete metabolic panel, so a CMP, to look at your electrolytes and your liver panel and your liver function. And then also, if you're somebody who's having really heavy periods, which is quite frequent in perimenopause, is to get a CBC or a complete blood panel so that you can check for anemia and rule out any anemia issues, because that can cause fatigue and also weight gain. The one thing that I want to say, though, about labs is during perimenopause, all of those things can come back and be within normal limits. However, you as a person are not feeling healthy and well, and you can't quite pinpoint what it is. You don't know what it is. And then you go into your doctor and you say, I want to get all these labs because I'm feeling, maybe you know a little bit about perimenopause. Maybe you feel like this is perimenopause for you. And then you go and the labs come back and the results are all within normal limits. And that can be really discouraging. I mean, it's obviously great. You don't want anything to be wrong, but it's not answering the questions that you might have. So I would exercise caution when you get those lab results, and don't give up and keep going down the road. Like, let's see what is actually going on. In particular with estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone, those can absolutely come back as normal, but you're experiencing the perimenopausal symptoms. So if the thyroid panel looks good and the insulin is good and the cortisol is good and all the other ones are great, typically a provider will say, okay, we've ruled out all of these possibilities based on your symptoms. It looks to me and sounds to me like you are in perimenopause, so let's move forward with a plan of action to address that.
Thanks, Teresa. Jabeen, other labs or markers or things that as a nutritionist you focus in on when it comes to weight and hormone related changes?
Yeah, it really does correlate a lot with what Teresa says, and I'd like to expand on that. But first, I just want to make it clear. There is no menopause society actually supports hormone panel or blood test to show where a woman is in perimenopause. So it frustrates me when a client tells me that, oh, my doctor confirmed I'm in perimenopause. And I'm like, how did he or she do that? Oh, my blood work shows that. I'm like, and what age are you? She goes, 42. You don't need blood tests to tell you you're in perimenopause. So let's check in on your symptoms, because it's not diagnostic, right? It's really symptom based. We're not a lab work. So I always say, how are you feeling? Based on where they're at, I would get them to do blood works, especially with thyroid panel. Doctors just give them the standard thyroid. It's just the TSH, T3, and T4. That can come out all great. And then they say, yep, you're all fine. What I get my clients to do, no, do a full thyroid panel. I want to see your reverse T3. I want to see your anti-TPO, because the American Thyroid Society actually released figures that 1 in 4 women in perimenopause develops hypothyroidism. I'm in the business to identify the root cause and deal it holistically. I don't want to manage it through medication when they come back to me with hypothyroidism. If I can prevent it through nutrition, you're going to believe it, I do. So I send them back, get a full thyroid panel. And 1 in 3 clients literally comes with great TSH, great T3, great T4. Guess what? NT-TPO's elevated. That's a sign that she's on her way to developing hypothyroidism. So then I literally personalize and target her nutrition and supplement to help that thyroid health. So thyroid is so important. Again, I'm going to repeat it. 1 in 4 women in perimenopause develops hypothyroidism. And I see this every single day, right? But we can prevent it. And again, with the lipid panel that Teresa mentioned, we will go beyond triglycerides, your LDL and HDL. Let's get the APOB, which is a better indicator of your LDL. Let's have the genetic marker, the lipoprotein, the LA little LP little a. Let's get that tested. We've got to see a full picture. And it frustrates me when I go to the doctor and a perimenopausal woman at 50, there's certain markers like my thyroid I want to get on top of. It's fine today, but it could change in 3 months. And then the doctor just the other day told me, oh, you're in your danger zone. And I'm like, I beg your pardon? Why am I in my danger zone? You're in 50, you're in menopause. And I'm like, oh my God, doctor, you literally have got to upgrade your knowledge. Menopause is the time to thrive, right? And that's because I am a menopause health practitioner. Can you imagine the women that Teresa and I deal with on a daily basis already feeling broken to be told that, oh, you're in your danger zone? That's terrible.
Yeah.
Women needs to be empowered. So I love that Magnolia Wellness equips women with that. And I love that I can also personalize their menopause care based on their lab works. But again, extending on what Teresa was saying, it's also the metabolic markers, the iron, their ferritin. Again, the iron might be fine, but if the ferritin is low, that is going to impact the thyroid health. So as a nutritionist, when a client comes to see me, I ask them all their questions. How's your sleep? How's your stress? How is your brain fog? How's your mood? How's your appetite? Because this tells me what could be off. Pretty much 100% of people diagnosed with anxiety or depression has got low vitamin D. And Teresa mentioned the D. I think in doctors, they say as long as it's 30, you're fine. Guess what? In perimenopause, you need minimum 75 because that's going to help with our bone health, with our immunity, with our metabolic health, with fat loss. But they don't see all of that. So going back to what we were talking about, calories in, calories out, guess what? It's not calories in, calories out. What's going on internally with these key markers that's going to either shift your body composition to the worse or make you even stronger and better? And guess what? I have clients leaner, healthier, stronger today in perimenopause and menopause than they were in their 20s and 30s. So,
Sure.
I get really, really passionate about this because there's just so much bad advice out there. And I deal with this on a daily basis.
Yeah, and it really sounds like the importance of having a unique and nuanced conversation with each client, right? That there's no cookie cutter approach
Yeah.
to what women are going through during this time, and from their symptoms to the way that to the way that you approach their goals. Everything deserves sort of this fresh look at this woman and what she's going through and how to approach it. So, Jabeen, I'd be really curious to hear too, when you have a client who's tried restrictive diets and maybe their goal is to achieve a weight a weight loss, or they want to get to a certain target in their life. How do you approach their weight goals? What do you work with them on, right? What's your philosophy?
Wow, that's such an important question, and I'm glad you asked it, right? So the first thing I would tell them is, you're not broken. You don't need fixing. You don't need another restrictive diet. You don't need another rigid routine. What you need is this personalized care. Just as I was talking about the lab works, right? I ask them on their symptoms because they could have the perfect nutrition. They could have the perfect exercise routine. But if they're not sleeping, if they're not managing their stress levels, we spoke about cortisol briefly earlier, right? They're not going to get healthier. They're going to blame their belly fat and cravings on lack of discipline, right? Belly fat and their cravings has got very little to do with discipline and lack of willpower. I mean, for some women, they do self-sabotage. But for the majority of us, They don't realize that cortisol and insulin, when they're dysregulated, they are the biggest driver for belly fat. They are the biggest driver for their cravings, which then makes them put on all the weight. So I need to really understand what their lifestyle is, their full picture. Do they ease into the morning? Are they suffering from this rushing woman syndrome? Do they feel the need to jump on their phone the first thing they do in the morning? Let's not even have the phone there, right? So I need to get an understanding of their lifestyle, because not everybody is going to have that, 30 minutes in the morning that they ease into their day, but everybody can find 5 minutes in their day to ease into it. So I need to get an understanding how they do that, right? But my cornerstones, to answer your question without me getting sidetracked, is personalization in their nutrition, in their supplementation, in their workouts. But again, it's not just willy-nilly. I need to get their lab works first so I can integrate it, and understanding that it's going to be volatile. Then I work on their nervous system, because a dysregulated nervous system means cortisol is off. Cortisol is our stress hormone. It is essential, but we don't want to stay in a state of We've got to learn how to downregulate it, because if the cortisol is off, our insulin is going to be off. Our insulin is the gatekeeper of our blood sugar regulation, which we spoke about earlier. And what most people don't realize, cortisol and insulin is like a love tag team. If one is off, the other is off. And guess what? There's a third silent victim that people don't talk about. Thyroid. Your thyroid's going to be impacted. And that's why it's really important to understand what's going on, because everything is not an isolated symptom. I always connect the dot, whether it's symptom based, whether it's their lab work. It really, really tells me a clear picture, because I look for it. I know what I'm looking for, right? So I work on that nervous system, calming their cortisol, understanding that it's not just about nutrition and exercise. It's stress and sleep. It's not part of their plan. Stress and sleep aren't optional. It's foundational. It's
Sure.
100%
Yeah.
foundational. And
Awesome.
then
Let me unpack that a little bit. Teresa, help me understand from a nursing perspective. Sleep disruption and cortisol imbalance, we're saying plays a role in weight retention and what's happening at this point in our midlife. How is that really?
So the increase in cortisol impacts blood sugar, and it also impacts our sleep. And I talked about it a little bit in the beginning about how that has that negative feedback. So it increases the visceral fat, and then that it releases cytokines, which are inflammatory, and then that inflammation, it contributes to insulin resistance. And then you sort of, and she just talked about it too, about that relationship and correlation between insulin and cortisol. So there's this vicious negative cycle that's happening. One of the things, though, I do want to talk about that Jabeen made me think about was if a provider does not have a comprehensive, full understanding about perimenopause. We see this actually quite often in our clients, is that doctors are really siloing out different symptoms, and they're not taking a step back and looking at the whole picture. And one of the things that I can tell Jabeen is doing too, and we also really pride ourselves on in Magnolia, is we look at the 5 lifestyle factors and see how, really try to assess the client and figure out where they are in their world with those different lifestyle factors, because it really does matter. And the first one is sleep. It is absolutely foundational for our bodies to have the proper amount of sleep and quality sleep. And women, by the way, need a little bit more sleep than men do. There was just a recent study, I think it's 20% more time that women need, because of our hormones and the impact that the hormones have on our bodies, that we just really need that. So I wanted to just point out that, for me personally, my perimenopausal journey started with palpitations. And so I went to the doctor because I didn't have the knowledge about perimenopause. And I went to the doctor and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm having these palpitations. And my doctor, if they would have taken a step back and said, okay, you're 40, you're a little bit young, but your mom was 42 when she was done with menopause. If they would have taken a step back and got and reviewed like all these labs and had the knowledge, and instead they siloed out and they sent me directly to a cardiologist to have a full workup for a cardiologist. And of course, all of that stuff came back completely normal, which is wonderful. But at the same time, I'm being left with no answers because I still don't feel great. So I guess my point is in this is just really encouraging your clients or your friends or your peers, to the people that are listening, to find somebody that's going to look at you as a whole person. We aren't just this one little siloed out. And then the second thing that I want to say is every woman presents so different that they're saying it's as unique, this experience is as unique as their fingerprint. And so that really complicates diagnosing and treating. And it also warrants a really nuanced conversation with a provider and a plan. So like what I'm doing is not going to work for Kelly, and it's not going to work for Jabeen, and it's not going to work for my best friend. And so just feeling okay with that. And I think just knowing that there's not a one all fix all be all. We're all very unique in this, and that's really super important.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I find really encouraging about where we are in this movement overall is that we are not relying on one discipline to help to support women on this journey. We're not saying that this is the provider's responsibility. We're not saying that this is, only a specialist realm. What we're really saying, and I think you two are very representative of this, is that comprehensive and collaborative and cooperative assessment and planning for women is the way that we're going to break the stigma of looking at this from a one-dimensional perspective. And I know that both from Teresa's perspective and Jabeen's perspective, you guys are so keyed into helping to support and empower the woman to all of these things together, so that you're moving in one collective direction, that you're not putting these 5 silos out and leaving it up to the woman to make sense of what's happening during their time. So I just think it's fantastic, the work that you guys are both doing. I wanted to close just with kind of asking you each to share like a personal story where you had an interaction with a client or a woman that really felt impactful to you on the weight topic related to perimenopause. Jabeen.
Well, that really goes back to that initial question you asked me about that restrictive mindset, right? Because when the client comes to me, she's already done keto, she's done IF, she's done juicing, she's done water, she's just metabolically fried, she's exhausted, right? So when we personalize her nutrition, we personalize her supplementation, and then we regulate her nervous system, the magic happens when she accepts where her body is today, where she's at hormonally. I work so hard with each and every client to make their lifestyle age appropriate, not just the nutrition, not just the workouts, because the nutrition and workout they did in their 20s and 30s, guess what? It's not going to work now. So there's a lot of reworking, a lot of relearning that I do. But the magic, I'm going to try to say this without getting emotional. I do this every single day, but it gets me. The magic happens when they accept, because they fight so hard to fight for the body they had 5 years ago. They fight so hard to be who they were 10 years ago or even 12 months ago. I tell them, stop fighting so hard for who you once were or what Instagram is telling you what you should look like. Fight so hard for the body you have today. You've got to love the body you have today, because ladies who's listening out there, you cannot heal a body you don't love. It's as simple as that. Love the body you have today, and you watch the transformation happens. That acceptance, that realization, and that light switch that I see in their eyes, when that happens, they become unstoppable. And I have so many stories of these things happening all the time. It gets me
Gosh,
every
so
time.
inspiring. So inspiring. You can feel the passion, Jabeen, in what you do. I just think it's absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
It's incredible. I get to change lives every day. So when someone asks me randomly, so what do you do for a living? I change lives. I change lives every day. It's an honor to be able to say that and to do that.
I agree. I recently had a really wonderful thank you card, and it's not totally specific to weight gain. It's just perimenopause in general and the symptoms that this person was experiencing. And they had gone to multiple providers and they were not living in their home country. And they felt like they were going crazy. And we just happened to, by happenstance, come together for something totally not related to perimenopause. But she was asking me, what is it that you do and in such and such and such. And I was explaining to her, and she grabbed my arm and she was like, "You've got to be kidding me. Like, this is what you're telling me is what I've been trying to find. I've been trying to find somebody who will listen," because she kind of had a sense that she was experiencing perimenopause. And that was one of her frustrations, is that she kept going to these different providers and she kept getting brushed off. And I sat there and I listened to her and I told her what I do. And she's like, oh my God, she started crying because she felt like the universe had brought us together. And then from there, that led to a one-on-one consultation. And she sent me a thank you card, and it brought tears because I empowered her with the knowledge. And I shared with her, like, go, this is what's going on in your body. Here are some options for you. This is where you can find these people. We can connect you with them. And she's gone through those steps, and she now feels heard, and she also has a plan, and it's working, and she feels human again. She's a really super smart person. She's high level in her company, and she was really struggling, and she thought she was going nutty. She thought she was going crazy. And now she feels like she's totally back to herself and, back to her high functioning, happy go lucky person. And we had a total hand in that. And so her thank you card was lovely, really lovely. So yeah, I
Awesome.
can totally relate to you, Jabeen.
Yeah, it's
Awesome.
amazing.
Yeah, and I think we can all feel the passion and the why in what we do and the fulfillment that you get when you know that what you commit your life's work to is that which really makes a difference for every individual. And I think hopefully for all of us, we want to make an impact globally, right? We want to change the narrative for the system overall. I just want to thank you both so much for being here today on our inaugural webcast, and really just our hope, our collective hope, is to arm the women of our generation, the generations before us, and the generations to come with the knowledge and the skills and the support to really thrive during this time. If any of our viewers want to connect with either Jabeen or Teresa, you are highly encouraged to do so. Jabeen can be found. She is the Naked Nutritionist. The best way to connect with her is on Instagram at Naked Nutritionist. Teresa, Magnolia Collective Wellness, and we are reachable at Magnolia Collective Wellness on Instagram, and then our website, www.magnoliacollectivewellness.com. Thanks again, ladies. Great conversation. It is probably the first of many, and we are so, so, so happy to be doing this all together. Thank you guys so much.
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you. It was an honor.
Very much.